In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern where there will be wintry times, especially over the next week or so, especially that first week or two of March. After that point, the long range guidance that we're getting, the long range outlooks from the Climate Prediction Center are all indicating that later on for the midpoint and late points of March are going to be a lot more warm, and it's actually going to be very spring-like. Before we really dive into things, I want you guys to know that the February vlog over on my vlog channel is officially released. I worked so hard on it. It was awesome. We got a foot of snow, 12.5 inches of snowfall. We had two almost thunderstorms. They were basically like thunderstorms with no thunder, so very heavy showers. We had a major wind event with one of them. We did a lot in the vlog. It was absolutely awesome. My favorite one I've made to date. Please check it out. Be sure to subscribe to that channel. The support means so much, as I'm just now beginning to work on growing that channel. You guys have already shown so much love and support over there, and it means so much to me. Like that video, leave a comment down below it, as all of that stuff helps out. Check it out in the top right corner of your screen. Pin comment down below as well as the description. Thank you so much. A lot of this is going to cause some pretty major severe weather outbreaks, including one coming up actually in the early portion of March that I suspect could be a very major severe weather outbreak. The keyword here is could be. We're still working out the finer details, but it is looking worse and worse every single day. The Storm Prediction Center, if you guys have been keeping up with the videos, they've been issuing really bad looking outlooks, especially very far out, which only can mean bad things. So we're going to be diving into all of this. Let's take a look first off at the new 6 to 10 day temperature outlook today from February 28th, the final day of February. March 6th through 10th here looks a little bit cooler along this southwest coast. Warmer, especially along this kind of central area of the United States, even the north central here in particular. And then for areas in the southeast, you're either near normal or a little bit below normal here in this corridor. So it's going to be very back and forth. These long-term maps like this, that are, a full 4 days, it can be a little bit misleading because all you see is the below normal temperatures. But what it doesn't show you is that there's a day and a half of very warm temperatures and then like 2.5 days of cooler temperatures to get this below normal temperatures. This is a very back and forth pattern here. When we look at the precipitation, we will see a pretty large amount here for these areas. The second day of this potential severe weather outbreak will be happening, I think on the 6th, the 5th, 6th time frame here around the southeast. So that's probably a lot to do with this above normal precipitation area. Also, the west does phenomenal here. We see plenty of above normal precipitation areas out here in the west, and much drier across the Midwest down through the south central states, even extending into some of the Great Lakes in Ohio Valley. When we look at the 8 to 14 day outlook, this is when things become very evident that we're going to be moving in a much more spring-like pattern. I am hoping at this point, I'm kind of wintered out, guys. It's been 3 months of a very cool winter, some snow as well. I'm ready for the warmer temperatures. So when I saw this get issued today, it looks a lot warmer than the previous one. So when I refreshed it and saw this, I can't lie, I was super excited. I'm even more excited about the 3 to 4 week outlook that I'll show you guys in a moment. But very cold temperatures in the west. This does extend up into a lot of Alaska here as well. So we can tell this is a pretty decent negative PNA, and this causes the warm air to move into the central states in particular, but also quite a bit of the east here as well. Very warm temperatures, and probably sparks quite a bit of storminess in this area as well. When we look at the precipitation, it's mostly going to be on the east end with a lot of this storminess, but thunderstorms are going to be a lot more likely in this area with the warmer temperatures moving into mid-March. Also, the west continues to see a lot of precipitation, so cooler temperatures, above average precipitation. This is going to spell very snowy times out west. And then for the deep south central states, we're dealing with a little bit of below normal precipitation. The brand new, as of today, 3 to 4 week temperature outlook looks, again, exciting in my opinion. I know some of you are probably cheering for cold to just continue, but in my opinion, I'm just ready for spring. This is really looking good for my garden. As we take a look here at the west, we see below normal temperatures, also Alaska. So again, that negative PNA holds on for the 15th through the 28th of March, almost the whole month. So if this is accurate, then we're almost guaranteed that this is going to somewhat reflect the whole month of March when we're looking back at it. Really big stuff here. Precipitation For a lot of the Ohio Valley and Northeast areas, we do see above normal precipitation as well as the Northwest, with drier around for the South Central and Southeast. The only reason I disagree with this a little bit is because I don't think this is really based on any sort of shorter term or even medium term types of patterns. I think this is more so based on the fact that we're just in a La Nina, and I've seen the Climate Prediction Center try to do this all winter long, and that's basically the only time I've disagreed with them for the most part, is when they kind of come out with these basic looking La Nina precipitation maps. If you look up what a wintertime La Nina precipitation anomalies look like, and it would look almost identical to this. So just kind of basic, and I feel like there's a strong chance that this looks quite a bit different than this, but I do feel like a lot of the East will be above normal, so again, it could be accurate in some areas, and I feel like a lot of the West might continue to be above average, but I think that that might extend down to the Southwest still, and I'm not too sure that all of these areas will be below normal, so there probably will be some accuracy to this, probably some inaccuracy too. Here's the past 30 days. Obviously, this includes the final 2 days of January, but as I mentioned, we've seen some warmer days here in the Southeast, and this has caused the Southeast Ridge to kind of build back on this map, but this is kind of the final February outlook, or not outlook, but look back, I guess I should say. We do see cooler temperatures across a lot of the Northwest, and this does dive into a lot of the plains here, and it's been cooler overall for a lot of the Great Lakes and Northeast. But again, those final 2 days of January weren't the coldest in the world, so this probably would look a little bit cooler if we could get a 28-day outlook, but on Weather Bell we really can't, so this is what we have to work with. This is generally going to be pretty close to how February ended up looking. Looking at the European model here, it's important to note that we have numerous major storms, but there's not a lot of minor storms mixed in there. So it's going to be like a storm and then 5 days of nothing, and then another major storm and then 5 days of nothing. It's kind of how I see things here. So right out the gate, we do have a clipper system moving through the Great Lakes, and this is bringing some pretty substantial heavy snowfall to a lot of these areas, but it's pretty quick-lived. These clippers are known for moving quickly, and this one won't be much different. So expect more like a 6 hour, maybe 6 to 8 hours of snowfall from this. Pretty heavy at times, but moving through pretty quickly, which will limit accumulations overall. As we move towards tomorrow, my birthday, on Saturday the 1st of March, we do see some of this snowfall spreads out and begins to be lighter for a lot more areas though. So you might pick up a little bit of an accumulation in some of these areas, but it's going to be a bit more limited, as I mentioned, as far as the intensity. It's a good time for me to mention that there probably will not be a video tomorrow, so just know that ahead of time. It's going to be my birthday. I'm going to be busy all day and stuff, so I'm taking 1 day off, guys. Please forgive me, but yeah, 1 day off. As we continue on towards Sunday on March 2nd, we see that there is overall a warmer regime kind of setting up here for at least this day in a lot of the West, although there's some cooler temperatures along that immediate West Coast. But if we were to cut the nation in half, obviously it's warmer here in the West, colder in the East. And this positive PNA type pattern forces the cold to really dive into the East. So the 2nd is probably going to be a really cold day for the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and even parts of the Southeast. As we keep going towards Monday the 3rd, this is an important date because we start to get this low pressure building over Colorado, and this is going to be our severe weather storm actually for the 4th and 5th. We do see some snow and rainfall happening out there in the West, and we see maybe some isolated thunderstorms trying to get going here for some of the plains and deep South, but it's nothing in comparison to what we're going to be seeing for the 4th here. So already by the time we're looking at about 1 p.m. on the 4th of March, we have this major low somewhere over Oklahoma. A lot of severe weather taking place across, I would assume, Texas, eastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Missouri, maybe even Illinois. And this is only going to keep going. Overnight, we're going to see it move into here. The next day, for Wednesday the 5th, we're going to see it over the Southeast. This is going to be a good 36-hour severe weather outbreak, perhaps. And again, we're still working out the final details. It's about, 4 or 5 days out. But it continues to actually look worse and worse every single day. This is just not a good situation. I've been watching this for a few days, maybe even a week now, as you guys know, and I've just continued to feel worse about this whole situation. We are actually getting a pretty massive snow system over Colorado and some surrounding states like Wyoming, Nebraska, and South Dakota by this point as well. As we keep going, We see that by the time we're reaching Wednesday afternoon, that's going to be the 5th, this low moves up towards Michigan. Heavy snowfall now for the upper Midwest from this system, which is very hefty, 984. And this severe weather is going to be happening in this corridor now for the southeast and mid-Atlantic areas. In particular, we're going to be watching the day on Wednesday the 5th as this kind of just moves through the afternoon into the evening, and we see overnight it's basically all moved offshore. This does give way to some colder air for the east, but not super cold. It's not really as bad as that 2nd of March, but there is some colder air overall in this area. I think the reason it's not so bad is because we still have cold over the west as well, so it doesn't allow for it to be a massive cool down in the east. Speaking of the west, we do have really heavy snowfall for a lot of these Rockies and even some of the plains to the east of there. A new 983 millibar low pressure center is developing nearby the plains already by Friday the 7th. And we see this one start to take off over Oklahoma, kind of taking a similar track, and we get these thunderstorms and likely severe weather starting up for East Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri again. They hardly get a break. I mean, we're talking 3 or 4 days later, already seeing another potential severe weather event. This one's a little bit further out, so you have to take it with a grain of salt, but these models have been pretty consistent with it. The good news is the low kind of tends to be a little further south on this one, at least according to this European model. So this would limit the severe weather and thunderstorm activity to the south of that low, like South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, kind of sparing North Carolina, Virginia, and the Mid-Atlantic in general. But if this low is more like here, then you would look for areas south of there for the severe weather. So we would stretch that northward if that low was to trend northward, which at 192 hours out is a very possible thing. As we keep going past that storm again, we're much quieter for days. This is 11th, 12th. We're getting activity in the west. That's going to be continuous here over the upcoming pattern. And we really don't see anything of concern until we're looking at about Wednesday, the 12th of March here, where we get a 990 developing over maybe western Iowa. We start to get thunderstorms developing here across Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, East Texas again, and probably Louisiana for Wednesday the 12th. And that only intensifies as we move overnight. This is 2 a.m. on Thursday, March 13th. And we see a pretty intense area of thunderstorms, perhaps for the Midwest and Ohio Valley. It's something to watch. It is beyond 10 days out, so really, really far out. This low could easily be here instead, or here instead, or here. But with this intensity in mind, and also the models trending at warmth in the east, we have to pay attention because the ingredients are there. And this is kind of how we began to see the one that's coming up much sooner on March 4th, this far out. So there is reason to feel like this is a possibility. To some extent, we'll work out the finer details of who's going to be impacted much later on, obviously. We keep going. This one does bring impacts to the east on this model run for Thursday into Friday, the 13th, 14th. And as we move towards Saturday, the 15th, it already looks like we have storm number 4 developing here over Kansas and Nebraska, bringing some thunderstorms and perhaps severe weather to portions of the plains and Midwest. So we would be in this kind of repetitive cycle. Again, the cycles and patterns are the important thing in the long range, especially beyond 10 days. And this cycle / pattern that we're seeing here is repetitive storms that are placed in a way and have the ingredients available to be major severe weather events. So if we even get 2 or 3 of these out of the 4, that would be a very significant start to the severe weather season for the beginning half of March. Really concerning stuff. When we look at the GFS model, we're going to see similar things. Obviously, this 4th and 5th system moves through, bringing very similar impacts to very similar spots. We get that second storm as well for Friday the 7th here, bringing very similar impacts. Although this low, remember on the European model, it was way down here. Look at where it's at, Pennsylvania. These severe weather events are much easier to predict because we're not dealing with that 32-degree line where we need to worry about if it's going to be below or above freezing like we do for snowfall. When we're talking about severe weather, it's just basically everywhere south of the low we need to watch out for. So in this case, we're watching, the mid-Atlantic southward really for potential thunderstorms and severe weather if this is the case by Saturday the 8th. Important to note, as we keep going, we get cooler air after that before it builds back the warmth. And we do get a pretty similar upper Midwest system here around the 12th, 13th, 992 here over Iowa. This one stretches the severe weather much further south and would be much more impactful here very far out, like I said, so that's why we're seeing huge differences between the European and GFS model, but it means a lot that they're both showing the storm in a pretty similar area. The impacts vary, but this GFS model looks a lot worse with it from Texas and Louisiana all the way northward through Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois. Multi-state severe weather event if this is the case. Let's keep going. That one moves through. And just like the European model, we get another low developing, but this one's much further to the north than the European model showed. South Dakota, really. We'll have to see if we actually get thunderstorms forming with this one. And we do, it's a little far from the low. Typically, situations like this, in my opinion, end up being a little bit less major, but definitely thunderstorms, if not a little bit of a severe weather risk. If this was the case, which at hours 366, it's probably going to be significantly different than this, but both models kind of agree on that cycle and pattern of 3 to 4 massive storms bringing severe weather threats, each of them individually. So really bad news looking at the first half of March there. Total precipitation because of this is going to be pretty explosive here, especially for the plains, Midwest, and Great Lakes. Also, the West does phenomenal, like I mentioned. I mean, just tons of precipitation, tons of cold air. Really good looking for that snowfall out there. The anomalies reflect exactly what I just said, above average here along the West. And then this plains through Midwest and Great Lakes area looks to also do quite well. Surprisingly, we actually have taken a step back here from this kind of deep south into the East Coast area. This has been fluctuating a lot, though. We'll take it with a grain of salt, but maybe a little bit less moisture than we were originally anticipating through the first half of March. The total snowfall in the European model is obviously going to be a disappointment unless you're in the West, where they're seeing well above average snowfall due to the well above average precipitation combined with below average temperatures for most of the time. This is going to be a recipe for a fantastic late season skiing conditions here for, March and perhaps into April as we're kind of closing out the ski season out there. As we look at the northern plains, I mean, we get this big snow hole here. There's some areas of snowfall in between. The Great Lakes and interior Northeast do really fine, I would say average. And then everywhere that aren't obvious to get snowfall, we're really not seeing much, if anything. Really, really bad for snowfall. The GFS model is a little bit more generous for these areas in the Ohio Valley, especially in the northern Ohio Valley, like northern Ohio, northern Indiana, southern Michigan. And also for the upper Midwest and northern plains, a lot more snowfall. But really the same thing in the east. We might be done. We might be done with the snowfall. Temperatures here on the European model, we're going to see this warm up come to an end by March 2nd, as we mentioned, with a major Arctic blast. That'll be pretty short-lived, though. The 3rd and 4th are pretty cold, and then the 5th we warm back up, followed by that cool down after the severe weather event. We warm back up, cool back down, warm back up here around the 10th, 11th, cool back down, and then we're warming big time for the 12th, 13th here, followed by a cool down for the 15th, and it looks like another warm-up's coming in. So you can tell where I get this consensus that we're going to have this really wild back and forth stuff going on. As we take a look at the GFS model, it's going to be a lot of the same. Cool down, warm up, cool down, warm up, cool down, warm up, cool down, warm up. A little bit warmer on the GFS model, maybe towards the tail end, but really the same idea. The Storm Prediction Center outlooks here, I'm going to refresh this actually. I want to see the day 5 outlook here, which is for March 4th, and we still have this 15% chance area in the yellows. This is considered a long range, extended severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, so we'll know a lot more once this is day 3, which won't be until, I guess, March 2nd. So, yeah, we got to wait a while. This one was issued at day 7, I think, so really far out. We've got to wait a little longer, but the yellow translates roughly to a slight risk, and the orange translates roughly to an enhanced risk, but I suspect we might be pushing a moderate risk at least. Day 4, or better yet, day 6, the day after, this is going to be for March 5th, and again, the southeast coast is really where we're watching up into some of the mid-Atlantic for that next day of severe weather on Wednesday the 5th. Again, yellow roughly translates to a slight risk, but this is in the long range, and we might even see an enhanced risk in here. Definitely something to watch. This is a unique situation and really aggressive for how early it is in the season. So the Storm Prediction Center definitely is very concerned about this one, as you should be as well, unfortunately. With all that being said, again, be sure to check out the vlog. I worked really hard on it. It's probably the best one I've ever made. That is available now. You can check it out in the description and pinned comment down below. please show your support over there, guys. I've been really working hard on that channel. If you subscribe to it, like it, leave a comment, hit the bell icon, all of that means so much to me over there. Be sure to subscribe here as well. You can hit the bell icon for the daily notifications when we upload here. Like the video, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.